Hello, I'm Jenny Fern and welcome to my library. I'm a chaotic neutral mechanical engineer who's really into permaculture and wants to talk about books. So let's talk about books. Today, I'm going to be talking about only books that I do not have. Let's go through the inspiration for this video. I started a Commonplace book. That's what I'm gonna call it. I'm not sure if it's a Commonplace book to other people, but I have all of these screenshots in my phone. Basically reminders for myself, things I want to look into. I've decided to write down all of those things instead of storing the screenshots, which is great for my phone storage. I can put in information in its proper place. So this is my notebook. I'll go through who the stickers are from. This is from The Average Artist, Steph Seed. I have her horror comics on my bookshelves. This is from Holly Brown, and I have the first 2 issues of their comic Paranormal Plague as well. This sticker is from Julia Rich, formerly known as Zeke's Lunchbox, and I got her tarot pack. I have followed these artists for a really long time, and I really appreciate their work. So today, I thought we would go through the first page that I have here, which is books to look into. I don't even know how many books here. It continues on for several pages. These are all books that I took screenshots of. Plants and gardening is very filled out. You can tell what I really care about. Let's get into these books. Mostly I just want to know what are they? I have very little context for myself. I have enlisted the help of ChatGPT, so take this all with a grain of salt. I'm just really trying to figure out if I'm actually interested in reading these. So the very first book is The Hunt for Vulcan by Thomas Levinson. I first heard about this book several years ago from a coworker, and several people were reading it. This is a nonfiction book exploring the 19th century search for the hypothetical planet Vulcan, highlighting how its hunt led to Einstein's theory of relativity and changed our understanding of the cosmos. I was reminded of this book because I did the books about math video, and I had been reading a bunch of Carlo Rovelli books, and so some of my coworkers who had also read The Hunt for Vulcan were like, hey, did you ever read that? And I was like, no, I kind of forgot about it. Then there's Uncle Petros and Goldbox Conjecture by Apostolos Doxiadis. This is a novel about the obsessive quest of Uncle Petros, a reclusive mathematician, to solve Goldbox Conjecture, one of the greatest unsolved problems in mathematics. I don't know what Goldbox Conjecture is. I studied math to the extent that I needed it for my engineering degree, but I didn't study pure math when I was in school. I'm fairly certain that I came across this again in the course of making that books about math video. Next is The Blue Beautiful World by Karen Lord. And I came across this in a gunpowder fiction and plot video about the Women's Prize long list. And I don't think that this was even a recommended read. I'm fairly certain that this was not recommended, but the description sounded like maybe I would like this. It is a science fiction novel that envisions a near future Earth where a musician is pulled into an intricate web of political and social change catalyzed by new contact with an alien species. I love first contact kind of stories where it's more about exploration of different types of life. First contact stories that are about just murdering, I'm not into. Next is Disillusionment by Thomas Mann. Where this came from, I have no idea. In this short story, Mann explores a character's journey of existential disappointment as he faces the realization that life consistently fails to meet expectations. That's a little too vague for me, but I am really curious now because it says that it's a short story. Okay, I'm gonna look it up because what is the publication date? 1896. Oh my gosh, I love this. Oh, maybe this is where it came from. It's the basis for the song Is That All There Is, famously recorded by Peggy Lee. I love to absolute pieces the song Is That All There Is. I might read this today, if we're being completely honest. Next is The Botany of Desire by Michael Pollan. I heard about this from a coworker. We were having a chat. It was like a breakfast event. I can't remember why we started talking about like books about plants and stuff. I'm obviously very obsessed with plants and gardening and permaculture practices. I immediately wrote this down. Pollan presents a narrative that explores human desires and the domestication of 4 plants: apples, tulips, marijuana, and potatoes, revealing how plants manipulate us as much as we cultivate them. No wonder I wrote it down. Then we have Pincher Martin by William Golding. And I have in my notes that this was from an Emmy Reads video. A psychological novel that follows the struggles of a shipwrecked naval officer, Christopher Martin. Isn't Chris Martin the guy from, what is it? Yellow? Coldplay. Isn't Chris Martin Coldplay? Yeah. Shipwrecked naval officer Christopher Martin as he battles for survival on a barren rock, confronting both physical and existential challenges. It's a little too vague for me right now. I gotta look that up, because clearly something about the way it was described made me really into it. 1956, so it's not available in the public domain. Existential and minimalist in setting. That does sound kind of interesting. Then there's Fermat's Enigma by Simon Singh. This book tells the story of mathematician Andrew Wiles' journey to solve Fermat's last theorem, unraveling a 350-year-old mystery in the field of mathematics. Oh, so this was a comment on an Emmy Reads video. For some reason, she was mentioning books about math. And this was after I'd had my video about books about math, and I got a lot of input from those comments of books to read. The next book is Glow Rushes by Roberto Pumini. This poetic novella tells the tale of a group of children who discover glowing reeds along a riverbank, which seem to embody the fleeting nature of beauty and wonder, as well as the bittersweet essence of growing up. This was in a Books That Feel Like a Studio Ghibli Movie video. And the creator, I don't know, because it wasn't captured in the screenshot. Next is The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. In a dystopian island society where objects mysteriously disappear and memories are policed, a young novelist struggles to preserve her memories and humanity amidst pervasive surveillance. I've heard probably more than I want to about this book, and it's making me feel like I have to wait quite a while before I read it. But this was recommended to me by Amazon based off of the other books that I'm interested in. The following is also recommended to me by Amazon, and that is I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman. This novel follows 40 women trapped in an underground bunker who have no knowledge of the outside world, exploring themes of isolation, memory, and identity when one woman escapes. This one I've also heard too much about recently for me to feel like I have a problem. I actually was watching, gosh, I have a new favorite booktuber right now, and I've been binging her videos. That is August is Reading. I feel a certain kinship with August because she explains very well this feeling of like, it's just that feeling of like, if people are talking about a book, if you know too much about a book, like you do not want to read it. And I really feel this way. I have been burned by hearing recommendations and reading the book and being so excited about it and then just being so disappointed. But if I pick up something completely unknown to me and read it for the first time, I feel this wonderful sense of discovery. I can be disappointed in works that I haven't heard about before, but the joy of being impressed by something that I did not know about is so much stronger than the joy of having a confirmed this was a good book if I read somebody's recommendation. So it's a little tricky, I don't know. So those two I think I've heard too much about for me to be able to read them soon. The next 3 books are from a Goodreads list, and I think I'm more interested in looking at this Goodreads list in the future than I am about these 3 particular books. But when I logged that I'd read The Escape, part of the Star Trek Voyager books, there was this little thing that said like, this book is on this list, and do you want to see other books from this list? And it was Female Spaceship Commanders. I love Voyager. Other books with female spaceship commanders? Yes. So these are those 3 books. Grim Space by Anne Aguirre. Jax, a jumper with the ability to navigate wormholes in space, must team up with a rogue crew after surviving a crash, navigating a dangerous universe and her own dark past. That sounds cool. Trading in Danger by Elizabeth Moon. This space opera follows Kilara Vata, a disgraced cadet who takes command of a starship and must confront pirates, warlords, and political intrigue to prove her worth. And the next book is also by Elizabeth Moon, Mark and Reprisal. The sequel to Trading in Danger, Kilara Vata is thrust into a desperate struggle for survival and revenge after her family business and personal safety are targeted by mercenaries. Taking a hard left turn, we have The Hairy Ape by Eugene O'Neill. My goodness. So I read Strange Interlude by Eugene O'Neill, and I don't know where I heard about this Hairy Ape book. I might have just been looking at Eugene O'Neill's Wikipedia. This expressionist play explores themes of alienation and identity as it follows Yank, a brutish stoker on a ship, as he grapples with his sense of displacement in an industrialized society. The Hairy Ape was published in 1922, so this is also available in the public domain, and I could read this now as well. The next 3 books were books that I had in my holds at my library. These were digital through Libby, and I lost my place because my library card expired before the holds came in, which is very annoying, and it happens to me all the time. So I have Nothing But Blackened Teeth by Cassandra Khaw, a horror novella where a haunted Japanese mansion becomes the setting for a doomed wedding party as ancient yokai spirits and personal tensions spiral into terror. I actually didn't know anything about the plot of this book, but I had looked up lists of horror novellas, and I picked the ones that sounded the most interesting. That sounds so freaking cool. This Thing Between Us by Gus Moreno. In this horror novel, a grieving widower is haunted by unsettling events tied to a mysterious smart device, revealing a story of grief, identity, and cosmic horror. And last for today, I have Tender as the Flesh by Augustina Bazterrica. Set in a dystopian world where humans are bred and consumed like livestock, this novel explores dehumanization of society and the blurred lines between humanity and savagery. I was so interested in this book. I had gone through a little era when I was reading The Vegetarian, The Yellow Wallpaper, The Haunting of Hill House. When I was reading those books, these were the books that I had on hold in my library. So I've still never read them. And I think I could easily get back into wanting to read those books. We have gone through the full first page. I can't wait to go through the next page with y'all because there are plenty of very interesting books to come. But for now, I think I'm gonna go pop in Disillusionment by Thomas Mann, even though I'm already in the midst of reading several books. I think I'm going to read that first because I'm so intrigued, and I'm gonna go garden for a little bit. Why? Take a nap, everyone. I think you all need naps. Hello. We just took Al outside for the first time, and he did so well. Clover was so excited to have a little kitty to hang out with her in the garden because she hasn't had a cat in the garden with her since Gordon died. And Al, I'm so proud of him, and he seemed to have a really good time. But now everybody's kind of whiny, like Clover's whining, Al is screaming for whatever reason. Apologies for any disruption. I am back to say that I read both Disillusionment by Thomas Mann and The Hairy Ape by Eugene O'Neill. I don't know how to help you. So I'll start with Disillusionment. That's what I read first. It is a very short story, so it was only like 15 minutes of narration. I read it through a recording of reading this story on SoundCloud. I am going to have to look at a written copy to pull out some quotes. There are some direct quotes from Disillusionment in Is That All There Is? It is very, very clearly a song directly inspired by this story. Do you see these little guys fighting back here? The story is about this guy. They're in Venice? He's in Venice for the first time. He sees this man who's described as like being between 30 and 50. All the time he's walking around near where this guy is. They have a conversation. This man is just like, life is disappointing. And the first big event of my life was a house fire, which is also how Is That All There Is? The song starts. There's the line like, is that all there is to a fire? Man, I just really, really love that. Oh, it's hard to tell because I love Is That All There Is deep, deep in my core. And so I think a lot of my love for this story is coming from the association with that song. I wonder how I would have read this story if I hadn't heard the song first. Clearly I love the ideas. I love the ideas when it's told in the song, but I also love the ideas when it's told in this story. Also, the idea of death being, this is a quote from the song, but that final disappointment, I'm like, oh my god, it's so cool. I think loving that song so much, it would be a shame if I had never read Disillusionment by Thomas Mann. The next book I read was The Hairy Ape by Eugene O'Neill. Wow, what a strange, messy story. I haven't quite unpacked it yet. It's about a man who is a stoker on a ship. It like opens where they're talking about, you know, being workers, and he is somehow a figurehead of these people. He's like the most workery worker in this ship. He is like dirty and brutish, and he is like, I am the machine. I am what makes this stuff run. We are introduced to this woman who is the daughter of the like owner of the steelworks. Comes from a great place of privilege, and she decides to visit these workers. Immediately she is like kind of appalled and like runs away. There's like a perception that she perceived him as a hairy ape. The people around say like, she thought you were a hairy ape. He is very offended by this and is upset that she has come into their domain. He has this resentment within himself. He ends up going to jail for a brief period of time, and he meets a man who starts talking to him about the IWW, I think is what it's called. That like workers union. He then decides to approach that union and join them. It was just so interesting because he is portrayed as this really brutish person. There's this whole idea about like workers and workers' rights, unions promoting the humanity of workers, but he remains a brutish man. I don't really know quite how to feel yet. Because I've read Walls and Bars by Eugene V. Debs, and now I've read The Hairy Ape, I can imagine, because Eugene V. Debs talks to these people in prison, he's a socialist, I can just imagine that this guy in The Hairy Ape is like somebody who would have been in that jail. It's like a whole world is forming around this time period. I'm just so intrigued by it. Those are my thoughts, and that is it. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know, what are some books that you have on your list of just things that you've heard that you're interested in? Do you take screenshots of other people's videos when they hold up books as well? If you enjoyed this, please consider sharing it with a friend who would also enjoy it. Consider liking and subscribing, and I will be back again soon.